Hey everybody, I did it again. I did hey everybody. Hey everyone. Hey folks. Hey you guys. It's your good buddy Spider. I thought I was going to be a bit more cohesive for this show, but apparently not. Welcome to another episode of the show, presented by Uncanny Media. Maybe I can get through the first 5 minutes. You think? You think I can get that far into this? Goodness. It's been a week. It has been a week, and not all of it good. I don't remember if this happened when I did the last show. I don't think it had. But regardless, within the last several days, the old cat that I'd been trying to nurse back to health, that had, the urinary medicine and various stuff, he didn't make it. So I buried him, and 2 days later, pretty much 2 days later, his younger brother, his last younger brother, who's his half-brother, but still, regardless, he just deteriorated rapidly. He'd been kind of iffy, but he'd been seeming fine. He just seemed like he'd been, picked up a bug, and within a few days he was gone too. So I have buried 2 cats over the course of this week, and it's been hard. Ooh, excuse me. I'm not getting teary-eyed right now. I mean, not that that's a bad thing. I mean, I definitely have shed some tears here and there, but it's also, I've been fighting a nasal thing for about a week now too, so everything kind of came out at once. So my mood has not been great. My mood has been really all over the place. And so I apologize if maybe this episode is, again, it'll be the 3rd episode in a row that might not be the most entertaining. We had the legal episode, right? Then we had last week's episode, which was kind of rambly, and had mistakes. I had mistakes in the last episode, so it's 2 weeks in a row that I have to say that I apologize for mistakes. Although this time it was just stuff that was mistakes on my end. I didn't misspeak or anything like that. I meant to talk about the fact that I'm not on Twitter/X or BlueSky anymore. I'm going to talk about that this week. But I meant to talk about it last week and the week before, and I didn't. And I also, last week, I didn't even have an outro. I got to the end of the show, and I just hit the end record, and I realized, oh my goodness, I didn't plug in an outro. Well, guess it's too late. I guess it's too late for that now. This guy crying in my ear here is the last of his family. He is the last of the brothers. He lost 2 brothers this week, and I don't know if he fully understands that yet. He's not very smart. He's a bit oblivious to things. And he's already been pretty needy, so it's hard to tell what he's thinking and what he's not thinking. So, yeah, I forgot to do the outro theme song. So we're going to make sure we do that this time. I'm not going to forget. We're going to be more professional than we were last week. I'm going to try. So since I mentioned it, I guess, I did shut down my BlueSky account and my Twitter/X account. Because it's mostly for technical reasons, but also because I really didn't like using them anyway. They were basically just promotional stuff for the haikus I was doing and for this podcast, and I didn't have a huge audience on either one. If you miss seeing me tweet things, then I guess that's unfortunate, but I never really used either one of them for much. And I didn't like that style of social media. I never did. I was using them because I was using the old branding, and it was because I needed to be able to compete with other uses of the branding at the time. And in retrospect, I could have just kept on going, considering that this is, as recording this is August 5th. Quick update, legal update. I've still not heard back from the lawyers, so again, I'm assuming that they've sought the better part of valor and dropped whatever attempted case they thought they had. And the trademark has still not been registered. It's still sitting pending. It hasn't been updated. It has still not been granted. So I could have theoretically probably still used it. However, there is a legitimate use of that trademark by someone else out there right now. And I have the feeling that they're going to be protecting their intellectual property very, very soon. And that's not something that I wanted to tangle with. But I know someone else is going to have to deal with it. So I like I said, I don't like the Twitter style social media interaction. It's rapid fire, it's short attention span, and I didn't like it. And BlueSky, I barely glanced at it. I would post things there, and that would be it, because there's so many people that all they do is complain about everything on BlueSky. It's complaint, anti-political meme, all the same. You'll see it in waves. Somebody will post, oh yeah, here's this thing about Trump today, and then over the next several days, it's that same thing shows up verbatim all across the site. And I don't care one way or the other. Like, I'm not, as I've said before, I'm not a Trump guy. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for the other guy either, or the other girl, however you want to say it. But it's asinine to see the same shallow memes over and over and over again, like it's some kind of status symbol, like, you're right, ha ha ha, this is a funny joke. You know, it's asinine, and it's counterproductive. And so BlueSky was probably going to get the axe sooner or later. I couldn't really be bothered. So I shut that down too. The other thing, like I said, was logistical. Because when I made usernames for both Twitter and for BlueSky, the usernames included the old branding. And I couldn't find how to change that initial sign-up username. You could change your display name, but you couldn't change your username, and that was going to end up being problematic if other trademark things happened. So, because I couldn't change all that I could tell, and I couldn't be bothered to dig deeply enough into it to really make it a priority, that was another part of my reasoning that I just shut all that down. So if you miss me there's nothing I can really say. I'm not really interested in that sort of social interaction. I'm still on Facebook, which is kind of a ghost town. I mean, you get a lot of spam there, and you get a lot of just, I don't know. Facebook is not a good place for promotion anymore. Even if you pay for advertising, I discovered you may not get the results that you want. Even if it looks like a lot of people are suddenly seeing your stuff, it's not. I don't know. You have to have something that the masses can drool over for Facebook to be effective. So, but I'm still there anyway because I have family and friends that use it, and for what little promotional value there is left on it, I still use it. And I have Instagram, barely use that too. I considered shutting that down, but then I thought, I can probably post a picture or two here and there. And maybe I will. I don't know. I've barely used that too. My primary platform is still YouTube. And you can still find me at Spider Does Things on YouTube. and I'm very much behind. I am now almost 10 episodes behind as of this episode on putting the podcast episodes on YouTube, so I'm going to try to put a bunch of them on very soon. I want people to listen to the episodes here on podcasting platforms. One, because I'm selfish, because of the ad revenue. Because if you put it on YouTube, you don't get the ad revenue, because it's not the same, it's not connected. I have to pull it from here and upload it to YouTube manually, and that doesn't connect it to the system that counts for the ad revenue, if that makes sense. So part of it is selfishness. I want to make sure you listen to the episode. Unfortunately, I don't like ads either. I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I went years trying to do podcasting stuff without advertisement, and it's a necessary evil to cover costs at this point. I wish I had a better answer for you. I would love to just go ad-free and say, screw it. But I do need the ad revenue, because I do need to pay for all these things. Money is tight. So that's the main part of the main reason, and then the other one is just I do so many other things with YouTube and other videos that it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But I'm going to try to be a little bit better about getting them up within a few weeks of when the episodes come up on your other streaming services, so that they're pretty close timeline-wise. Right? Because I think that's fair. My YouTube is still growing, by the way. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm very close to the first level of monetization. Very close. And that will allow me to do some things that I couldn't do before. I apparently got monetized on a certain level on Twitch, but it's not from ad revenue. You get people can, while people are watching your stream, they can donate gift subscriptions to each other. I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Somehow I'm supposed to make some kind of money out of that. But the issue is, I do my Twitch streams late at night when not a lot of people are watching. And the people that are watching content on Twitch that's not content that I would watch. So I don't know how effective that's all going to be, but it's nice to be noticed by Twitch, of having accomplished a certain level of fame, I suppose, fame and fortune. So maybe I'll get to the affiliate level with Twitch too after that. I don't know. Who knows? It's not something that I'm shooting for. I send everything to YouTube anyway, because YouTube is my arena. YouTube is my prime center of entertainment universe. And along with the website, of course, uncannymedia.net, which connects to that YouTube. It connects to the podcast software. It connects to everything. To This Uncanny Earth, to The Intern's Oddities, to Big Buff Records, to Spider in the Hall, which I have news for you for that also. I just got all kinds of news. I have news. News and explanations. It's an explanatory. That's the word I'm trying to go for. I'm just stumbling over words tonight. I'm sounding like another radio host who can't speak. It's torture to try to watch those episodes. I can't give any more details after that, because somebody's lawyers might be like, "Oh, you said a mean thing." Oh no. Mean tweets. What was I saying? Spider in the Hall. Spider in the Hall, my musical project. I have music that's not new, but it might be new to you. It's music that has been missing from streaming platforms for quite a number of years, for various reasons. My distributor, which is TuneCore, if you're a budding musician and you're interested in something other than DistroKid and CD Baby, you can go to tunecore.com. TuneCore used to have a pay model where everything you put out, every single release, had a price of its own. And usually, I mean, they were consistent, but they were, you had to pay for each thing separately per year. It was a yearly price per thing you put up. So if you put out one album, it might be like $40 a year to keep it renewed and to keep it on platforms. If you put out two, then that's another $40, and they come out at different times. And if you didn't stagger them well enough, you could end up paying a whole bunch all at once. And I don't remember how many I had at the time. I probably had 8 or 9 releases up. And so I was paying a couple $100 a year to keep these things active. And it came to a point where I couldn't afford it. So I told them to just discontinue some of my albums and things and just left a couple of important pieces up there. So it was manageable. Well, a couple years ago, I know, buddy, it's exciting. A couple years ago, they switched that to a flat rate model where if you're part of, they have different tiers where now I'm a breakout artist is what it's called. I'm on the breakout artist plan. And now it's like $40 a year for me to release anything. When I say that, I don't mean to say it's $40 a pop every time I put something out. It's $40 a year for me to be there with unlimited releases and uploads. It doesn't matter how many things I release in a year. The total price for the year for a subscription to keep everything active is $40. So, which is pretty awesome because it significantly reduced the costs involved. And at the time, I was like, that's cool. And I kind of put a couple things back up, but I didn't get around to the rest of the catalog until just like this last week. And so I've been emailing them back and forth and reactivating chunks of my catalog, like single releases and EPs and my dark ambient albums that were the first 3 pieces of commercial music I ever released. And at long last, after I don't know how many years of fighting with them about it, you can now find the 2015 album Aeons on streaming platforms, on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes, on Amazon, all those places. It is the album I recorded at the lowest point of my life. It's a difficult album. It might not seem difficult to people from the outside, but it was difficult for me on the inside, and it was kind of a therapeutic, cathartic thing to put out. And I feel good about it being out there. I've been trying to get this thing released on streaming services for probably 10 years. It was out briefly, and then it got pulled because there was some issue about the explicit lyrics. Not that they didn't oppose to the explicit lyrics, but they're really picky about how they do things. If you have an explicit track, you have to label the track as explicit, but you don't label the album as a whole as explicit, right? Now, I had felt that the entire album was mature themes because it was all stuff that was dark, that was chewing away at me. I felt it was all really like, don't go into it thinking that it's all just going to be a fun album. It might bother you, and every track has a little bit of that in there, whether they have bad language or not. But TuneCore, they specifically say that in order for you to market as mature content, it has to have bad language. And only 2 tracks on the album have bad language. The rest of the album is just themes. I say it's mature themes, but they don't count that. So I guess go into it at your own risk. But it's out. It's out there now. You can listen to it on Spotify and all the places that I mentioned, all across the internet. So, and I feel good about that. I feel good that my complete, almost everything I've ever put out is now out in the wild. There's a couple of EPs that are only on Bandcamp that I'm thinking of putting out. I have to make sure the tracks are ready and do some various things, but I'm going to put out a few more things that might have slipped through the cracks, but the bulk of everything is out. So that makes me feel good. Now, I want to talk about something else that kind of... And I don't want people to think that I'm complaining about my partner. All right? If she listens to this, I'm not complaining about it. It's just we've had talks about it, and it's been something that's come up that's... Sometimes this thing drives me crazy. But I'm not talking bad about her. I don't want anybody to think that I'm trashing her over the air or anything like that, because I'm not. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And people are going to think that I am, and I'm not. She's a plant person, right? She's a plant person. We have a garden of sorts in the backyard. It comes and goes with how upkept it is because we get busy and things. It's not due to the skill of her gardening or anything like that, or because she's deliberately neglectful or anything, because she's not. She has a full-time job, and I'm raising our daughter, and I don't know a thing about plants. I know basic things about plants. But some plants are finicky. Like you don't just water certain plants every day. Some plants go for a few days without water. And some, if you water them too much, they're unhappy. If you water them not enough, they're too unhappy. If you have them in direct sunlight, they're unhappy. If you have them in too much shade, they're unhappy. And I don't know the details about all that kind of stuff. I can't keep it straight. I'm not a plant guy. Right? But, so the garden is kind of a work in progress, I guess. There are some really nice parts of it, and there's parts of it that need some attention. But we've also tried many times over the years to have plants inside the house. And it's difficult because it gets... Sometimes the house is drafty, sometimes the house is dry, sometimes the house is too hot or too cold, and it's a balancing act to try to get things to stay healthy in the house as far as plants are concerned. And it didn't help that one of the cats that passed this last week, he was a notorious fan of salad, in that if he saw a plant in the house that he could get to, he would chew on it and he would eat it without fail. You could not have any plants at any level where he could get to them. And because he was particular and he was finicky and he did things what he wanted, whether you wanted him to or not. He would get up on counters, he would get up on sinks, he would get up on stove, and so you had to have everything at heights that he couldn't get to. No, of course he's gone. So we've got some plants on a shelf here, and we had some plants on a table that were propagating. I don't know if you're a plant people and you know about propagation. I'm not going to get into it because, again, I'm not a plant person. I know what it means basically, but I'm not going to get into an explanation of all that. But they were in this big bowl with their propagating, and we only had brought it in. They usually go outside. We have a spot for them outside in this bowl, this big terracotta bowl. But the temperature had gotten kind of low for a few days, and it was not good for the plants. Like, when it gets to be winter, we got to bring some of these in for the season and find places for them. But there's been a few days where it got down into the 50s, which is nice weather. It's not cold for me, but it's cold for the plants, apparently, and not good for them. So we had it inside. And my daughter's cat, who's barely outside of being a kitten, he's 2 years old now, but you wouldn't be able to tell. He's a little guy. He got into the bowl and munched half of the plants. Now, these are plants called succulents. Which, tangent, I always hear the word succulent, and I think of Thanksgiving dinner. Like, succulent food on Thanksgiving dinner. Succulent with the gravy and that. I don't think of it in terms of plants. I think of it in terms of food as the descriptor. So it's always weird for me. I've never tried to eat one of these plants, though, because they're like cactuses and things, okay? Don't eat a succulent, people. Don't do that. I've never made that confusion. But in my brain, it always sounds weird. It throws me off. But for this little cat, he apparently figured that succulent was succulent, and he just ate half of the plants from the bowl, just dug them right out. He got up onto the counter, got into them, and she found him the next day. And these things are mildly toxic. He's fine, by the way. He's perfectly fine. He's been eating and drinking. He spit up a little bit, and then he's fine. There's not going to be anything long-term from it, because if he would have had an issue, it would have been within the next day, and he'd had problems. But he's perfectly fine. He's running around like normal. He's eating and drinking, going to the bathroom like a madman. He's perfectly fine. So, but the fact is, now we have to be careful, because he's following in the other cat's footsteps. He had never bothered the plants before. But once this other cat got towards the end of his life, I guess he feels like he's going to keep on the tradition. So we're trying to keep these plants alive. Now, I've done pretty good with some of these, right? Because she's had some of these plants from the last 3 jobs that she's had, which has been the last 6-7 years. Which I know some people are going to say, you had 3 jobs in 7 years? Well, there were things that they didn't pan out, that they were, I don't know if I've talked about it on a show before, but she'd had a call center job that had paid pretty good for a while, until they basically back room style cut the commission without telling anybody. So we started making less money and wondered why we can't pay our bills all of a sudden. What's happening? Business is the same, until we finally saw some commission stuff, and the company said, yes, we've cut commission on different things without telling anybody. They told everybody months after the fact. And there was a lot of other things that were wrong with the job that were basically, it was basically just harming her physical health. Her physical and mental health were both being harmed, continuing in this job that had started out okay. So she left that one. She got an offer to sell cars. She got an offer to be a car salesman, which, you might think, oh, that's a shiesty job, but it sounded good. The offer was good until she started, and they apparently don't want their people making money, so that didn't work out. She went to another car dealership thinking, well, I've got the knowledge, I've got the skills now, and we'll try it again. And this place seemed really sympathetic. They said, oh yeah, those are the big competitors for you. We're a smaller company and we still do well, and they treated her like garbage. There was a moment when one of her direct management staff basically called her stupid to her face. And if I had been able, I'd have gotten him acquainted with 5 of my fingers clenched at his orbital socket. So I'm not a particularly violent guy. I don't go out looking for fights. Every time I get mad, the first thing I think is, I'm just going to punch somebody. But it doesn't even matter that she's my partner. It's just, you don't say that to somebody who's just legitimately doing their job and who might have had a question that could help them do their job better. You don't do that. It's unprofessional. It's rude. It's just, I hate that kind of stuff. Bully stuff makes me so angry. Bullies. Oh, they make me angry. They make me angry. So she left that one. And now she has a pretty good spot. She's got her own store. She's doing well. But during that time, she had taken various plants in for her desks at these places. And she kept having to bring them home. And now she's at a place where at first we didn't know if we could keep the plants. So she had them here. And she couldn't be here to take care of them. So I had to kind of take care of them on some respect, or at least make sure I reminded her, hey, do this, do that, let's check on this. And between the two of us, we did pretty good. We kept some plants alive. We have kept some plants alive. We've notoriously had problems neglecting plants, regardless of the cat. Like, we would have them in places where the cat couldn't get to, and they wouldn't get watered enough, or they wouldn't get enough attention, and then the plants would just shrivel up and die. So between the two of us, we've kept a lot of these house plants alive. I'm surprised. They get in the way. Like, right now they're all collected on a shelf, and that's fine. When winter gets here and the ones outside have to come in, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because we move them around counter space, because the counter space here is limited. The kitchen is a good size, but the counter space is small. It's like small counters on a relatively okay-sized kitchen. I don't know if that makes sense. So, I don't know what we're going to do. But it drives me crazy sometimes having to keep track of all these plants and remind her about these plants. And I'm not talking bad about her. I'm not talking bad about her. She does her best. She provides with her job for the rest of us while I'm taking care of our daughter, so I can't, in good conscience, not that I want to at all, because she does a great job. And it's just difficult to keep track of everything for somebody who's not a plant person. Right? Anyway, so that's what's going on there. Speaking of this weather, it got kind of nice and a little cooler for a little while this week, and then today it ramped up and it's super humid. I'm kind of sweating right now, trying to deal with it. You might hear the air conditioner coming on and off in the background there. This time in Ohio in August is always kind of, you never know if it's going to be comfortable or not. It usually just ends up being not comfortable. It's usually just real muggy. Super muggy. And it was Hall of Fame weekend this past weekend for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I might have already complained about many times. But it meant that there were tourists in town. And I have been a tourist. I have been to places where I have not been the guy who lived in the area. I get it. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be a little grouchy when people come through and they make the traffic stand still and they take up space at the grocery store and everything else. Tourists, right? So we had that going on. It's a lot of things have gone on over the past week and a half. My back still hurts. Yesterday and today, I think, it started to feel at certain points in the day where I haven't even noticed it. It's been brief moments, but it's been times where I didn't notice anything was wrong with it, which is good. It means it is starting slowly to kind of recover. But it is a permanent injury. I don't know what I'm ever going to do about it. I'm not going to get back into it because I covered this exhaustively, I think, in the last episode, or maybe a few episodes ago. But it is improving to the point where there are some points during the day that I don't even notice that it hurts. It might not hurt at all. And that might be why I don't notice, because it doesn't hurt. But then other points are just like, oh man, my back, what am I doing? So, there's that. But let's talk about the other thing that happened over the weekend. And we're going to get back to a wrestling review, a pro wrestling review. So if you're not interested in that, this is your moment to tune out and to just be like, whatever. But if you are into it, I'll try to make it somewhat exciting for you. This past weekend was WWE SummerSlam for 2025. Now, last year, I went to SummerSlam. It was in Cleveland. Went up there. It was a good time. There was a lot, because there's a lot of people, and I'm not great around a lot of people, and it was hot, and it was just noisy and whatever. But I had fun. Even though we got lost in Cleveland. And couldn't get back for another few hours. But this year we didn't go. Of course, it was in New Jersey, and I don't drive long distances for this kind of stuff. For one, it's expensive, and for another, we don't get the time. So Cleveland was one thing, but this is, I'm not going to follow the wrestlers across the country as they do their shows. I'm not that dedicated of a fan. But they also had it was last year, and all of the years previously, it was a one-night event. You had several matches all in one night. But this year, it was 2 nights. They had 6 matches per night, with various things going on the side. Which is, again, very expensive if you're going to go and get tickets for. So, Saturday on night 1. Now, overall impressions was that it was really, a lot of it felt kind of sloppy this year. A lot of the actual action, there's a phrase for you. A lot of the action in the ring felt kind of sloppy, and maybe that's just how it is in an open air stadium, because SummerSlam classically has an open stadium rather than a dome or an enclosed arena. It's usually open so people can see the summer weather and get the, SummerSlam, right? But I don't know. They were in a weird order and things too. There were some good surprises, but I don't know. It just seemed kind of sloppy. And I'm going to get into the specifics as we go. On night 1, which was Saturday, the first match was Jey Uso and Roman Reigns against Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, of course, they're part of a team with Seth Rollins, who's out, or is he? As I'm reviewing this, I've already seen last night's Monday Night Raw, so that changes things. But at the time, the assumption was he was injured with a knee injury, walking around with crutches and everything. But his team, his flunkies, which is Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker is one of the best in the business right now. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a great worker. He's got good personality. He's a Steiner, and his father and uncle, which is Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner, respectively, were some of the Scott Steiner particularly was one of my favorite wrestlers, just because he's so ridiculous. You'd have to look him up. But Braun and Bronson, which can be confusing, I get it. So they have grudges, because Seth has grudges against Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. So this is a grudge match. It's an alright match, though. I mean, there's a lot of sloppiness that goes on. But it's alright. It's not a bad match. And Jey and Roman won via a pinfall over Bronson and Braun. I don't remember who did the specific pin. I think maybe Jey got the pin. I don't remember for sure. I didn't write that down. I think he got the pin. But not a bad match. A bit sloppy in parts, but not bad. The second match was Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair against Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez from the Judgment Day. Now, the Judgment Day has been kind of interesting. In last year's SummerSlam, they slightly fell apart because two members of the Judgment Day, which is Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, they're not members anymore because at last year's SummerSlam, they were both betrayed by other members of the Judgment Day, and so they got kicked out. They got backstabbed and thrown out. So it took a while for the group, the faction, to kind of be interesting again, because they kind of were just like, whatever. And now they're kind of interesting. They've got the men's tag team title for one of the shows, because each, like, Raw and SmackDown both have their own tag team titles. So they have the Raw tag team titles. They had the women's tag team title, which is the same across both shows, so you have to defend it against people from both shows. And they had the Intercontinental Championship on Dominic Mysterio. Okay, so they have a lot of titles, and they're doing good. They're successful, and they also have a lot of schemes going on in the back. Finn Balor, who's, they say, we got no leaders in the Judgment Day. He's acting like he's the leader anyway, and he's smart, and he's turning people against each other, and he's trying to clean out the people he doesn't like. So, but the Judgment Day has been impressive. The storylines have been fun. The matches have been okay. And Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are from SmackDown, which I can't watch, again, because I don't have USA Network, and it's not on a streaming service that I pay for right now, and I'm not paying for another. Complications, right? But they have this thing going where they don't like each other. They're not friends, but they're allies. I don't remember how they've got paired together. I think they just were like, look, we both need a partner because we both need to get in these tag team things, and you're the only person around, so let's just do it. Fine, whatever. But we don't have to like each other. And they started winning, and they've been undefeated. And here at SummerSlam, they won the titles. They pinned the Judgment Day. Alexa Bliss pinned Roxanne Perez. So the two of them won the tag titles, the women's tag titles. And they've defended them since. They've defended them since on Monday Night Raw the following night, which I'm not going to review Raw. I could talk about it a couple times here and there, but I'm not going to review it in full. You got to watch it. And it was a decent match. It wasn't bad. It was still kind of sloppy. There were some missed moves here and there were things that were kind of I don't know. I feel like because the sloppiness was present over both nights, I think it's something to do with the open air arena. I don't know. I can't explain it any other way. Maybe it's just the way that the air comes in, or the wind or something. I don't know. Or the sound. Maybe it's difficult to stay focused with the way the sound is because it's flying out and it's, I don't know. The acoustics could be something to do with it. I don't know. But it was an alright match. The following match was something that I'd been kind of interested in. It was Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross, which is a grudge match, because Karrion Kross has been tormenting Sami Zayn for weeks, telling him that you're not really a good guy, you need one moment and you'll snap, and then you'll do whatever it takes to win, and I want you to prove to you that I'm right about that. And Sami Zayn's, no, I'm for the people, I'll never be a bad guy, blah, 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 blah. It was that kind of thing. And they had a spot where Karrion Kross's manager, Lady Scarlett, she tosses in a pipe to give to Sami Zayn to say, hey, use it. You use it on Karrion Kross. You go ahead, not because she wants to see her dude get defeated with it, but because she knows if he does that, it'll show that Karrion Kross was right after all. Even if he loses the match, he'd have been right, that Sami has that dark side. And Sami throws it away after wrestling with it, just like, no, I'm not going to do it, and he wins clean. And I hope that feud is over. Not because it wasn't bad, but because it went on long enough. They have a tendency to drag these feuds on too long with some things, and I feel like Karrion Kross should be. I'm not a huge Karrion Kross fan, but I think he has a lot more potential than what they give him. I like his little character of him popping in, doing mind games, messing with people, trying to tell him, you're not as good as you think, you're a bad person inside. And I think I'd like to see more of that, so I hope he has something good planned in the future. And Sami Zayn now, as of Monday Night Raw, is involved in the Sheamus-Rusev feud. If you don't know what that is, if you're, again, just like, what are you throwing out all these names? I have no idea. You got to be able to watch. So, it's all on Netflix. Raw is on Netflix. The pay-per-views are on Netflix now. You can watch them there. So, Sami Zayn won against Karrion Kross. He got a clean pin. After that, you had Tiffany Stratton against Jade Cargill, where Tiffany was defending the women's title. The SmackDown women's title, because they have two. You'll notice in a lot of this that they have two titles, one for each major show of the week. Because you got Friday Night SmackDown, they have their own titles for the men and the women, and then you have Monday Night Raw, and they have their own titles for the men and the women. So this is the women's title from SmackDown. And I'm not super invested in Tiffany. I know she's over with the fans, like they really like her, but I was never really a big fan, but she does okay. And Jade is still learning, even though she's been with them a year or so at this point. She's still learning, but she's getting there. She is getting there. There were mistakes made in this match, but they were alright. But Tiffany defeated Jade Cargill to keep her title. So she's still the ladies' champion from SmackDown. Not much more to say about that. After that, you had the celebrity match. You had Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre against Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. Yes, the country music star, former rapper, Jelly Roll. And, it wasn't a terrible match. There was a lot of obvious, because Jelly Roll is not, he's not a wrestler, but he does enjoy, he enjoys watching the shows, he's a big fan, and you could tell he wanted to respect how things go. You could tell he didn't want to just go in and pretend to be like, I'm the badass, I'm going to beat these wrestlers. He wanted to do what they asked him to do. He claims, the claim is that he's been training at the WWE Performance Center in Florida with Jacob Fatu, who's excellent, couldn't ask for a better teacher, and Kevin Owens, who knows how to move as a big guy, because Jelly Roll's a big guy. He's not as big as he used to be. He's lost a lot of weight, but he's still a bigger guy, so he needs to know how to move and do things that are within his skill set. And you could tell when he would take a move, when he would, he'd move his arms to brace himself and do some different things to be prepared to take hits. And he did that well, but it was kind of obvious. It was obviously choreographed in spaces, which I know that's pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is highly choreographed. When people say wrestling is fake, that's what they mean. It's choreographed. They do practice all this stuff ahead of time. They know who's going to win. You still have to do the physical thing, right? You still have to physically do it, and I can't do it. Can you do it? I'd like to see you try. If you say you can, I would love to see you try. Because a lot of people go like, oh, I'm the macho, I got that, yeah, of course I can do it, look how strong I am, look how quick I am. Okay, I'd love to see it. I can't do it. I know for a fact that I can't do what they do. And that's why it's entertaining. I know that it's choreographed, but they're still putting in the physical effort. And some of it just looks fantastic. It doesn't always look choreographed. And when it doesn't look choreographed, it's when it's best. When it looks choreographed, obviously, it's kind of like, well, whatever, same old. But when they can pull it off and make it look like it's real, it's entertaining. And that's what it is. But there were spots, I mean, obviously Jelly Roll is not going to put himself at risk of being seriously hurt, and nobody wants him to be seriously hurt. And I don't like Logan Paul at all. I think he's a terrible person. Absolutely horrible person because of things he's done in his past. And I don't think he's ever really... He's not changed. He's never changed from that. But he is a good wrestler. He does know what he's doing. He does very well with the moves. He doesn't hurt people. He doesn't, he's clean with that. So, and he took good care of Jelly Roll, and so did Drew McIntyre. But Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre won over Jelly Roll and Randy Orton via pinfall. Which is unfortunate, but, it's alright. It's not the worst match. It's not the worst match, so. And then we get to the main event. The main event, this is where things got nuts. Like, this is where I didn't expect this. This was a nice swerve. Because the thought was that Seth Rollins, who was the Money in the Bank winner, which means he can challenge a title holder at any time, even right after they've had a match, he can jump in, cash in his opportunity, and fight for the title, which usually means that they win because the title holder's beat up. If it's after a match, they're already beat up, they're already hurting. Somebody runs in, basically steals it, right? But he's supposed to be hurt. He's hurt. He's walking on crutches. He's got a knee problem. He has a history of real-life knee problems, not within the bounds of sports entertainment, but real life. He's hurt himself for real. So, CM Punk was against Gunther for the heavyweight title, the world heavyweight title, which is the Raw title. And it's a decent match. It's alright. Gunther, I don't care for his character because it's kind of bland and it's the typical kind of foreign menace kind of thing that they do, which I've mentioned in my wrestling reviews on the show here before. But he doesn't hurt people because he's a good worker. His moves look painful, but they don't actually hurt somebody, which is important. And CM Punk has come to terms with the fact that he's getting to be an older guy, and he can't do the things that he could do when he was younger. And it's refreshing to see him not try to do some of the things he did when he was younger. And act more in the ring like, of course, I gotta act my age. Because when he first came back, he got hurt for real. He busted a tricep in the Royal Rumble because he thought he could do the same thing that he used to do, and he can't. And he's had several reality checks since then, and I think that's good for him. I think he's grown as a person, and so it was an okay match. CM Punk won the match. He defeated Gunther with a pin. He wins the title. He's got about 5 minutes to bask in the glory, and then Seth Rollins comes out. He's on crutches. He points to the Money in the Bank that Paul Heyman, his manager, is holding up. He's like, remember, I got this. I can cash in. I've got until next year's Money in the Bank event before somebody else earns the chance. And then he goes to leave, and then he lets go of the crutches, turns around, takes off the knee brace, takes off his jacket, and runs straight to the ring like there's never been an issue with his legs at all. Runs in. Punk's already beat up. It was a hell of a match. And Seth beats the pants off of him and steals the title. His knee wasn't hurt in the least. It was all a con for weeks. And didn't see that coming. Did not see that coming. So, and then his buddies come out to celebrate and to beat up the other guys a little bit. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, they come out to beat up everybody and to rub salt in the wound, right? So that's night one of SummerSlam. Night two was worse. It was more sloppy. But it did have one match that was the best match of both nights. There was a sleeper match that I didn't expect. I mean, I knew the match was coming, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. We're going to get to it. So night 2, you've got Naomi against Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. Io Sky used to be the women's world champion, and she has been battling with Rhea Ripley back and forth because Rhea Ripley has been trying to get it back because she's like, hey, that's my championship, I want it back. And Naomi had cashed in her Money in the Bank contract on the last pay-per-view to run in while the other two were beat up and basically make a steal. And so she's won the title. So both of them want to fight back for it. This was an okay. It was a bit sloppy too. It was just there were a lot of moves that didn't fall through. There were a lot of things that were kind of iffy, and in the end, Naomi ended up retaining the title by pinning Io Sky. So that's still a thing that's going to continue. The second match, I didn't have much interest in. It was a 6-team tag team match. Okay, there were 6 different tag teams in there. And because each tag team is 2 people, that means there's 12 people involved. And it was a tables, ladders, and chairs match, which means there's no disqualification, there's no tags in and out. Everybody's in the ring at the same time with weapons and whatever. For the tag team titles, the SmackDown tag titles. And it was the Wyatts, 2 members of the Wyatts team, which is based off of Bray Wyatt's old group of characters. He's passed on now, of course, so this is basically a tribute group. Against DIY, the Street Profits, Fraxium, Andrade and Rey Fenix, and the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, there's so many people involved in this match that I'm not going to go too far into the ins and outs on it. It was too much. I don't like these kind of matches because there's too much going on. And it ends up just being how many people can you hit with a ladder and smash people through the table. And there was like a series of table spots where like 5 people all got hit through tables, including at least one lady who came out to help DIY. Candice LeRae came out to help her friends in DIY, and she ended up going through a table. But the Wyatts ended up retaining the title. They climbed up the ladder, got the titles back, so they're still the champions, for whatever that's worth. I wasn't super invested in this match, so I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. But what have you. The third match, I'm getting tired of this match, and I hope it's over now. But the third match was Becky Lynch against Lyra Valkyria for the Intercontinental Women's title, which is a new title. And Lyra Valkyria was the first person to earn that title, and she held it for a little while. And then Becky came in and beat her for it, and then, they've been feuding ever since. And then Bayley has been involved because she used to be friends with Lyra and etc. But the stipulation for this match was that if Lyra lost the match, she could never challenge Becky for this title ever again. It was a street fight, no disqualifications, no holds barred. So they had all kinds of weapons, they had all kinds of things. They're beating the crap out of each other. This had one of the worst mistake spots of the night. There was a point where Becky Lynch got a zip tie from under the ring somewhere from a toolbox, and she zip tied Lyra's hands together so Lyra couldn't use her hands, and attacked her a bunch of times, that kind of thing. And there was a point where Lyra was like, oh yeah, I'm able to do kicks, and she was doing stuff, and her hand slipped out, and you would have thought, oh, she's out, she can fight back. And then, because it wasn't supposed to happen that way, she slipped her hands back in. And it was so obvious. You saw it on the broadcast. This is the kind of stuff that makes people be like, yep, wrestling is fake. And because she wasn't supposed to be out of the zip tie yet, they still had a lot more match. And apparently they didn't want to improvise it from there. So she puts her hand back in the zip tie and then tightens it back up. And then there's a bunch of falling spots of her trying to saw it off on different parts of the ring and a fire extinguisher and stuff. But she put it back on too well. So she had to go under the ring and find a way to cut it off and come back out. It was the worst. And then it ended up that Bayley came out to stop Becky from beating up Lyra with a crowbar. And she got slightly beat up, and while the other two were in the ring, she came up to try to get her revenge, and she ends up smacking Lyra, which let Becky put the move on Lyra and win the match. So she interfered and cost her former friend the match, and she's broken up about it. And they're going to continue that kind of thing on the next few weeks, probably. This was easily not the worst match of the night, but the second worst. Because the one that I have to say is the worst is unfortunate, because one of the people in these match, well, both people are okay at what they do, and they're different opponents, but it wasn't a great match. The fourth match was Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu, and Jacob Fatu is fantastic. When you talk about the future of pro wrestling right now, you talk about Jacob Fatu, you talk about Braun Breaker, you talk about these people that they're young guys, they're good, they're excellent, they have a certain size, but they got agility and strength, and they're just fantastic. They got the personality, everything about them is great. But this match was in a cage. It was a cage match, and it was the most tame, boring cage match that I've seen in a while. They both had okay moves, but it just seemed like wrestling by numbers. And it ended with Solo Sikoa escaping the cage with the help of his group, his Tongan friends, to retain the title. And it was not impressive. It was easily the worst match of the night. Which is really a shame, because Jacob Fatu was so good. But it wasn't a great match. And it was for the United States Championship, another minor championship. So Solo Sikoa retained that because he had defeated Jacob Fatu by cheating a few weeks before on another show. So that's really unfortunate. I was really let down by that match. The following match, though, was the best match of both nights. And I say that, and I still don't believe it myself. It's Dominic Mysterio against AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship that Dominic Mysterio has right now. And Dominic is such a skeezy character. He's part of the Judgment Day, but he's just a skeezy character. And AJ Styles he's doing great right now. He's at the top of his game. He was really kind of slowing down for a little while there, not doing real well as far as pulling the moves off, and it was kind of getting to be boring to watch, but he's been picking it up. And they had a fantastic match. They both wanted to out Guerrero the other. Now, Eddie Guerrero, of course, is a past superstar. He's passed on. He was really inspirational for a lot of people. He lost a battle with drug use, unfortunately. But he was very influential over a lot of people. And so both these guys were trying to show that, I can be more respectful to his legacy. And they were doing the various Guerrero things, like the fake. They did the spot where Dominic gets the chair while the ref's back is turned, but he smacks the chair on the ground and then tosses it to AJ and falls over as if AJ hit him with the chair, hoping that the ref was going to turn around and see, oh, you hit him with the chair, you're disqualified. But then AJ puts the chair around his neck and falls over too and twitches like they both got hit with it. And the ref says, I don't know what to do. You both look like you got hit. And they blame each other. And there was just a lot of that kind of stuff, and it was great. They pulled off the moves too. They not very much looked like it was overly choreographed. It looked like it was them just having a wrestling match. It was great. And then Dominic pulled it out at the end. He did the classic Eddie Guerrero loose boot spot where AJ tries to grab his foot to put him in a hold, and Dominic has loosened his boot, so his boot comes off and he slips out of the hold. And then he knocks over AJ, and the referee's back is turned for some reason, and he hits AJ with the boot, and then he picks up the win. And it was great. It was a great match. It was probably the best match of both nights, and I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. And then the last match, of course, was Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the Undisputed title, which is the SmackDown title. The Undisputed World title. In another street fight. So no disqualifications, weapons aplenty, and they did a lot of just constant throwing each other at the stairs, hitting each other with chairs, that kind of stuff. I did see a couple unique things. The one thing that was really interesting was Cody actually he unscrewed the bottom rope and used the connector, the metal connector, as a weapon against John Cena, and it was pretty interesting. But the match went on a long time. But Cody eventually won out. He defeated John Cena. He's the champion again. John Cena apparently is no longer a bad guy. He turned back to the fans. He realized, hey, I don't know why I'm blaming you guys. I apologize. And so Cody came off more as the bad guy in this match. He didn't pull any punches, so I'm wondering where they're going to go with that direction. But he leaves after this long, ridiculous match. And John Cena's there. It's his last SummerSlam he's going to have because he's retiring. And this is his last SummerSlam. He's not going to have another before he retires. So the crowd's chanting like, hey, John Cena, great job. And he goes to leave. And Brock Lesnar comes out. Now, this is an interesting thing. I thought that they were going to bring The Rock back and try to salvage that Rock angle that they had going, where Rock came out to try to get Cody to work for him and be a corporate puppet, and then Cena turned on him and was working with The Rock. So I thought they were going to try to build up to a Rock versus Cena WrestleMania match for Cena's last WrestleMania. But instead they bring out Brock Lesnar. Now, Brock Lesnar was part of supposedly, part of the lawsuit that a former employee brought against Vince McMahon that forced Vince McMahon out of his own company because it was all about sexual misconduct and allegations. I'm not going to get into that, but you can look it up. And Brock Lesnar was supposedly in the documents as having been involved in some capacity with that. But I guess, according to various articles, the WWE legal team cleared him of any wrongdoing 4 weeks ago. Does that mean he didn't do anything wrong at all? That's a good question. WWE believes he didn't. There's a statement from the other side, from the woman who's the focus of these allegations, where her lawyers say that it's an attempt to sweep it under the rug. That everything is going to come out in court. But who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to get too deep into all that. You can look it up. The Vince McMahon scandal is plenty of information available online. But so Brock comes back, goes to the ring, attacks Cena, gives him his finishing move, and then leaves. And so that's going to set up probably the feud for Cena going on to his last WrestleMania next year in April. Which, I don't know. I haven't seen Brock do anything since he was young Brock. Like, there was such a span of time that I didn't watch where I never saw anything of him as Cowboy Brock Lesnar when he had the cowboy hat, which is what he's doing right now with the beard and everything. I only know him as the baby-faced guy who went to MMA and stuff. Or was it UFC? I don't remember. But so I don't know. I've never been a huge Brock Lesnar fan. I felt he was overused as just run in and smash people kind of thing. And then I didn't think he had a lot of personality. But I guess we'll see what happens with that. He's a big name. People were into it. And there's a lot of directions they can go. But that's SummerSlam. It was not the best SummerSlam I've ever seen. The year before, I felt had a lot more storylines going on that were interesting to me. And the storylines since WrestleMania of last year have just been kind of iffy. Like, some of them have been okay, but they've been kind of like, they haven't grabbed my attention as much. And this SummerSlam was no exception. It felt sloppy as far as the moves went for most of the matches. It felt kind of directionless in some places. But I'm going to wait and see what happens. They could recover it by... we've got Survivor Series coming in November. That's always interesting to see what teams they put together. And then, of course, next year you got the next WrestleMania. So who knows? We'll see how everything goes. But yeah, that's SummerSlam. And my drink is empty. And I think I'm running on empty. I've had a lot to talk about. And I'm glad we were able to get here and talk about everything here on episode 25. We're racking them up. We're starting to rack them up. Faster than I thought we would. But thank you for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Spider Does Things. That's where everything I do is at. And go to the website, uncannymedia.net. You can also pick up a sponsorship if you want. We have 3 levels of sponsorship. We've got monthly, we've got 6 months, and we've got 12 months. And they're discounted at the 6 and 12 month levels, depending. Because if you're going to be that committed to go for a whole year, you're going to get the biggest discount. And if you're going to go for half a year, you're still going to get a bit of a discount. And if you're at monthly, you're going to pay the flat fee, but that's okay. You do what you want to do. You can cancel anytime. You don't have to renew. And you get to help decide the direction of Uncanny Media in various capacities. Your voice has more weight. It's not pay to play, though. It's just a perk. Right? It's kind of like owning stock. If you own stock in a company, then technically you're one of the shareholders, right? And you have a voice in some respect. So if there's something that happens with the company, you should be able to tell what your opinion is. So check into that if you're interested. I'd really appreciate it. And check out my various Spider in the Hall releases that have started showing back up on Spotify. A lot of it's good classic material that I'm a big fan of. And I'll be back either next week or the week after or something like that with another brand new episode. Who knows what we're going to talk about? Anything could happen in the next week or so. I know some things that I've got my eye on that I think are going to be super awesome that I would love to talk about, but I have to wait and see. It's all kind of up to the lawyers at this point. You know what I mean? And I'm eagerly anticipating how that plays out. So, until then, I'm going to play the theme song for real this time. I'm not going to let you out without an outro. But until then, of course, thank you for listening. It's your good buddy Spider. Have a good night.